This is the story of Joshua Nkomo. A man who was called Father Zimbabwe Umdala Wethu, a man of peace, a man of unity, a man of love, and a man of great intelligence.
I have suffered, I have worked so hard for this country before independence, during the war. I worked so hard after independence to make our independence stick. And this man today turns around and he calls me a traitor. Me, a traitor, a man who worked for this country so much. There is no insult to beat this one.
He found himself on the doldrums of history as he came up against one of the greatest to ever come from Zimbabwe, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, who was up in arms against him as he called him and his people dissidents and traitors.
Although, of course, all of you, during this period, did come into your country to carry out your mission. I've never done anything wrong, and Robert knows it. I told you this is for personal power. Let him stand up and deny it. This is for personal power. He's frightened of my stature. He's frightened that he will not win the next election. This is what he's doing, trying to smear me. That's very, very sly, very dirty. Don't expect of anybody who is supposed to be Prime Minister of a country. The rights we fought for, right to associate with other people.
The two arch rivals, Joshua Nkomo and Robert Mugabe, 22 December 1987, put aside their differences and came together in unity. This was crunch time. There was no time for games. It was the moment of truth. Differences aside, Zimbabwe first.
Of a transfer to the Patriotic Front, which he says yes. Then I said, fine, then we'll see you with Mugabe.
So this was a very different Smith to the man you last saw in Geneva?
Quite different to me.
Apart from the obvious differences that Robert Mugabe and Joshua Nkomo had, they had one common goal. One thing united them. That was the liberation of Zimbabweans.
And the colonial power of Britain. And we had accepted, over and above our acceptance of this constitutional posture, that the Anglo-American proposals constitute a basis for negotiation. That's the current basis. If we are going to work out another basis, then Britain and ourselves must be agreed on that new basis.
Joshua Nkomo loved his people. He had a heart of a mother. He was not just called Father Zimbabwe for heroism. He was a man of care.
Are dead because of hunger. I say to the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, say, do come now. By tomorrow, pass over to Kezi, pass over to Plumtree, pass over to Gwanda, and see for yourself the plight of people under your charge. They are neither dissidents nor criminals. They are ordinary law-abiding people who want to be left alone, who would assist the government in any form in which to track those who have chosen to be dissidents in a free Zimbabwe.
This was
Do you feel that the British are obliged to continue this conference, regardless of whether progress seems to be made or not?
Progress has been made. Considerable progress has been made. And as a matter of fact, it is Carrington who has not given to the Patriotic Front definitive answers on a number of issues. The question of land. I mean, you know that there is a war in Zimbabwe. The war in Zimbabwe is about land. And this is where we find Britain unable to yield to the popular demand of our people, so popular that they had to sacrifice their lives to get this thing, that is land.
Is that the principal objection you have to the British constitutional proposals?
Yes, I mean, what Britain has done, they have placed land as property in the Bill of Rights, and used the Bill of Rights as a bill of privileges. I'm saying this because land is owned by the white minority because of their privileged position. They never bought that land. They acquired it by force of arms. And any money transactions that has taken place, it has been between white men and white men, so that we couldn't be expected to pay for that land. Britain, if Britain wants us to buy this land, Britain has got to provide that money to buy the land.
How do you feel that the British have conducted themselves as moderators, as mediators in this?
They're not mediators. That's the mistake that people make. Britons are not mediators. They are the people from whom we want our country. Mediating between whom?
Why would you not accept the British constitutional proposals, hold fresh elections, which you say you would win, and then bring about the changes you want as the recognized government of Zimbabwe?
That is what you cannot do with the British proposals. You cannot bring changes about until after 10 years. There is a unanimity vote to make any changes on this issue of land. And so this is why we cannot agree.
The guerrilla war has meant serious economic hardship to these frontline states. How long do you think they will continue to support you? How long do you think they can afford to support the Patriotic Front in this
No, it's
war?
not a question of supporting the Patriotic Front. That's the mistake certain people make. The frontline states are not supporting the Patriotic Front. They are carrying out a responsibility that we all agreed as Africans to free Africa. And when Zambia, Malawi, and Rhodesia were in a federation, we worked together to destroy that federation, which was aimed at halting movement forward to independence. We knew that Zambia and Malawi were going to be free before the Southern Rhodesia, and it was an agreed plan that once the two are free, then we move forward from there to Southern Rhodesia to South Africa. It's not a question of them just helping us. It is a responsibility that the African countries have taken on themselves.
But the guerrilla war could not continue without their support.
This is what I'm telling you, that will not come, because they will not withdraw the support.
Are you under any kind of pressure from your guerrilla forces in the field to come to a quick settlement here at this conference?
Now look, our forces, and no forces make any pressure to the authority.
There's been a great loss of life in this.
Yes, there was a great loss of life by the United States in a matter that was not even theirs. How those young people could remain in Vietnam for so long, fighting for no cause, it's just because they were military men. But here, our men are part and parcel of the struggle. They are not ordinary soldiers, they are political soldiers.
You've seen peace initiatives before for Rhodesia. Is there any reason to believe we're farther ahead here at this conference than you were in the past?
You know, today people speak of Bishop Muzorewa as Prime Minister. What's happened to Smith? What's happened to the Rhodesia Front? It has been defeated. They could not continue. The only way to continue was to hide behind a bishop, a black bishop, and pretend that changes have come. You see, we have been moving forward, and today Smith is not there. What remains now is to remove that which Smith has used as cover. So there has been very big progress.
But has there been progress at this conference?
The fact that this conference is there at all.
Following the meeting of Commonwealth Heads of Government held in Lusaka from 1 to 7 August in 1979, the British government invited Muzorewa and the leaders of the Patriotic Front to participate in a constitutional conference at Lancaster House. The purpose of the conference was to discuss and reach agreements on the terms of an independence constitution, to agree on the holding of elections under British government, and to enable Zimbabwe Rhodesia to proceed to lawfully and internationally recognized independence, with the parties settling their differences by political means.
Why do you like it? Hey, you Rastaman, hey, European, Indian, man, we gotta come on together as one. Hey, you Rastaman, hey, European, hey, you Johnny, man, we gotta come on together as one.
Nkomo went to Lancaster House in September 1979, determined to circle and to get the best possible terms for the soldiers. He and Josiah Tongogara, the commander of the Zanla forces, Nkomo was supreme commander of Zebra, met frequently during the Lancaster House weeks and planned a strategy for peace moves between the two armies. After the ceasefire was achieved, Nkomo returned to fight the election. Not happy about fighting the election separately from his former comrades in arms, but he was welcomed home by huge crowds when he arrived in Rhodesia on January 13th. After he had won his seat in the Midlands, he was offered the presidency by the new ZANU government, but says one of his officials he wanted real involvement in the day-to-day business of governing the country. He therefore accepted the appointment to Minister of Home Affairs. He wanted a share as well in law and order, and this was made possible by including responsibility for the police in his portfolio. Joshua Nkomo possessed the ability to inspire great loyalty and devotion among his followers, a fact which even his political enemies admit. His close associates say that the secret lied in his common touch, his capacity for talking to all types of men in a language they could understand. This quality was apparent at his public meetings, where he gave a very convincing portrayal of a politician who felt deeply for the people he sought to lead. His long service to the nationalist cause and his recurrent ability to climb out of situations of near defeat enabled him to sustain a leading role in the political arena of his country.
No mungantshelanga nyamazwa ay nyamazwa Hayi noma ungantshelanga ngiyamazi, mina ngiyamazi baba ngiyamazi, mina ngibone ebuthongweni mazi baba, hayi ngiyamazi baba ngiyamazi baba, hayi ungazuntshaye ngiyamazi baba, ngiyangene ngiyamazi baba, mina ngibone ebuthongweni mazi baba, hayi ngiyamazi baba, hayi ngiyamazi baba, mina ngiyamazi baba, liyamazi ubaba inkunzi enjani ebhonga kunyika ethi ngapha kahleni. Now that Zimbabwe is free and independent, the priority is now nation building, social and economic progress. We cannot move forward if we are divided. We have to work as a nation together. Zimbabwe has people of various colors, but they are one. They speak different languages, but they are one. They have different backgrounds, but they are one. Once we all understand that, once we give our best to our country, Zimbabwe is a wonderful country. We have resources. We have natural resources. We have human resources as are not known in many countries. And therefore, it is us, the people of Zimbabwe, who should come together and see that Zimbabwe progresses. The most important thing in that progress is to see that there is peace and tranquility. Peace and tranquility. The observance of the rule of law. The return to our people that peace that they require for developing their country. To be able to do so, our law enforcing agencies must be free. The army and the police must not be interfered with. They have their powers given them by the constitution of the country. No government must try and interfere with those powers. The army has its job to safeguard the security of the country, especially along the borders. The police have their job to see that there is peace and tranquility among the citizens of Zimbabwe. It is not necessary, therefore, to have the police answerable to political parties. If the police have been and the army have been interfered with to this day, as we, as ZAPU, are certain will be in government as from next month. I want to assure you here that the army and the police will be left to do their respective duties without interference from the government of PF ZAPU. That there have been a number of little groupings who have usurped the powers and the functions of the police, you can be certain that those groupings will be removed. If those young people want to be in the police force, let them join the Zimbabwe Republic Police. No other little forces outside that main and the only constitutional force of this country. Comrades, I deal on the police and the army mostly because they are the essential organs
in keeping peace and tranquility in the country, and therefore they need that protection by the observance of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. The army is the army, and all its branches. There is no need for additional little political groupings. If you believe, as members of ZAPU, that when ZAPU is in power, you too will have your own little private armies, I say to you today, no. No private army. If, as you may have seen, there are little groupings of youths, political groupings of youths of political parties who have usurped the powers and the functions of the police. If you believe when ZAPU is in power, you too will indulge in police work, then let me tell you, you are not going to do it outside the police force of Zimbabwe, outside the Zimbabwe Republic Police. Ofuna ukuba lipolisa kangene emapoliseni. Yes, we are told. Of course they will not get them. People in a number of constituencies in northern Matabeleland and southern Matabeleland find themselves being beaten up by people who call themselves Abafana, the boys. We had the boys during the war. The war is over. There is nobody who can claim to do these stupid things, the dissidency in the name of ZAPU. We know that they are agents of ZANU-PF. I've told them that. Let these criminals get out of these provinces now, and let us have a free and fair election, undisturbed by young people who have no respect for their parents, who have no respect for their country, who do evil things in the name of a party that is dedicated to peace and tranquility, and that is PF ZAPU. I say to you now, if you come across those men who call themselves boys, get hold of the buggers, get your spears, spear them up, and call the police. You spear them and call the police. Don't do it without informing the police. Never mind, the police have been interfered with. We know that, but they know their job. Anything you do, don't do outside the police. It is vital. If there must be peace in this country, there must be that body which must keep that peace, and that body is the Zimbabwe Republic Police. Peace. He said he is asking the people in Matabeleland, why? Is it war? Is it peace? A prime minister of this country to ask this question? Does he not know that the war ended in 79? In 1979. That was the end of the war. We are dedicated to peace. If only ZANU-PF will withdraw their agents who are behaving as dissidents, this country will be free. Just remove those savages and leave this country free, and let the police do their job. That very important uniform, the uniform of our army. The army must remain in its barracks. Only leave the barracks when they are going on for exercise. Asikho yini? Siyayifuna impi. Who is this who come round and try to incite people to war? We don't want that war. We want peace, and peace must prevail. And therefore ZAPU has a duty to take over this country, to see that peace prevails in this country. To see that there is rule of law. To see that there is respect for individual rights. Abantu beZimbabwe have their individual right. They are protected to join any organization that they want. They are protected by this constitution. To move around the country without interference. Abantu beMashonaland. The people in Mashonaland are in great fear. When you talk to them, they will look round to see who is there. Because they know there is a chairman, there is a commissar, there is a youth, and there is a youth brigade. All these groups who want to see who they are talking to and why. What is this? To see who they are talking to and why in an independent Zimbabwe with a constitution that enshrines the right to talk to anybody, to move with anybody, as long as you are within the law. What is it all about? And you people, you have suffered. You have seen death. You have seen all sorts of things. But you have not seen yet what is happening in that part of Zimbabwe, where people are subjected to what they call village committees. You cannot go to an area without going to report it to a village committee chairman, brought in by a youth chairman. After you get there, you get your little pass, which you are supposed to get before you leave Bulawayo or you leave Harare. You present it to the commissar, who takes it to the secretary to scrutinize and goes to the chairman for a stamp. How? What country is this one? What country is this one? When we fought against these things, now it is these things that we, when we rule, subject our people to. This is a tragedy of tragedies. This must end, and end by this election. See that you return men of quality, men of understanding, men of respect, men of dignity, who will keep the dignity of your people and of your country. Who have seen things. We have seen things. And the people who have assisted us fighting are amazed. They cannot understand what's gone wrong in Zimbabwe. Why have they gone mad? Killing each other. Killing each other. There are those that are killed and there are those that kill. We're not killing each other. There are killers. And some of us are recipients of killing. And people are told lies, political lies, that they are dissidents belonging to ZAPU. I challenge these men who say that. I said, let us form a parliamentary committee that will go around the country to discover who these dissidents were, who succors them, who gives them Father Zimbabwe badges. They refused because they know what that committee will discover, that these young men are being sent by a party, a ruling party, trying to force people to join ZANU-PF. This has rebounced. They know it. This is why they cannot have a meeting of this size without these army elements who are not army. Carry them around in Pumas to go to meetings. Now they are trying to call meetings without using Pumas and nothing happens. Abantu bahlalile. There's one. Now let us look at resettlement. Resettlement. The law is for agricultural development, that is grain. Selizibonile ezabamwe ukuthi abelungu lapha inkomo bazigcina njani.
This is the story of Joshua Nkomo, as told by Joshua Nkomo. Long live the spirit of Umdala Wethu, Father Zimbabwe. Your legacy lives on.
I salute you, everyone who died as a slave. I salute you, anyone who cried from their pain. I salute you, anyone who fought to be free. I salute you, everyone who taught me to dream. I salute you, anyone who sacrificed themselves. I salute you, those who spent half their life in jail. I salute you, those who found pride in their skin. I salute you, dark African melanin. Yo, the land of milk and honey was built on money generated by a generation of slaves who stayed poor. Despite the elimination of segregation and slavery, their bravery remains with me, never forgotten. The cotton picked back when they was niggas and spicks, driven by whips and their salaries were nickels and bits. Never found its way to the wardrobes of poor folks whose pores soaked in sweat from chores they did. Sourced from whips turned into permanent scars and lashes from the masters, determined how hard they toiled the soil and heat hot enough to boil the brown skin from their backs and still pay tax. I feel blacks got the short straw, cause we still ain't got half what we fought for. We fought hordes of clan members, neo-Nazis and lanternas, but we still getting manipulated like antennas. Time to stand, get up, tell the man that we fed up. Until we get our proper respect, we can't let up. If thousands of people could lose their lives to it, the least you could do is open up your eyes to it. I salute you, everyone who died as a slave. I salute you, anyone who cried from their pain. I salute you, anyone who fought to be free. I salute you, everyone who taught me to dream. I salute you, anyone who sacrificed themselves. I salute you, those who spent half their life in jail. I salute you, those who found pride in their skin. I salute you, dark African melanin. My forefathers saw the harbors of the land of freedom shackled in the back of a ship to the crack of a whip, brought from Africa's tip after a battle of wits and auctioned off like possessions at the master's request, leaving masses of kids classed as bastards, stripped of a past and for centuries forbidden to ask. They say this is the past, but it isn't. The system that we live under today is still capitalism, driven by the ideologies of property and wealth, disregarding the spiritual poverty within ourselves. Some men and women knew that they had to overthrow them to see the freedom African people at once known. With guns drawn in revolution, they produced independence and ended their colonial sentence. They defended the oppressed from the rule of people who use church and schools as propaganda tools. Like the Panthers and the Jews, they were slandered and abused, and still had the courage to stand up and refuse. Can't even begin to imagine what you went through for this land that I stand on. I salute you, I salute you, everyone who died as a slave. I salute you, anyone who cried from their pain. I salute you, anyone who fought to be free. I salute you, everyone who taught me to dream. I salute you, anyone who sacrificed themselves. I salute you, those who spent half their life in jail. I salute you, those who found pride in their skin. I salute you, dark African melanin. Everyone who died as a slave, anyone who cried from their pain, anyone who fought to be free, and everyone who taught me to dream. Anyone who sacrificed themselves, those who spent half their life in jail, those who found pride in their skin, dark African melanin. Last night an ambulance whizzed by, I didn't blink an eye, but when I woke up this morning I got to thinking why. If we're dying from the same old things, how come we don't clarify and try to change those things? Cause that brother in that ambulance never had a chance, and he only made it worse with them baggy pants. Cause police could identify him as a member of the black man's new alliance. Hip-hop, an institution of true defiance, speaking out to the people to unify them. Instead of using iron, our tools are microphones and break beats. Our plan of action is escape the streets. African, Puerto Rican and Jamaican peaks, Black American, Indian and Haitian peaks. We're all black, it's a fact, so let's play for keeps. Being
strapped to the teeth ain't gon' make you free. You got to take your seat, teach them right from wrong. Darkness nurtures sin and these nights is long, but my lights is on so I can see clearly. Let me see a show of hands if you feel me, but I'ma still be open to rise out of the struggle, opening eyes, planning a bubble. Panic is trouble, but I ain't trying to scare people. As an MC, my mission's to prepare people. And I salute you, everyone who died as a slave. I salute you, anyone who cried from their pain. I salute you, anyone who fought to be free. I salute you, everyone who taught me to dream. I salute you, anyone who sacrificed themselves. I salute you, those who spent half their life in jail. I salute you, those who found pride in their skin. I salute you, dark African melanin. Marcus Garvey, Bob Marley, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, KRS, Public Enemy, Joshua Nkomo, Samora Machel, Nelson Mandela, my mother, my father, my forefathers. The list goes on. I salute you. I salute you.